Hello world, and welcome to We the People, an American pod show. Tonight, we have Steve Mahoney with us, and we're going to be having an awesome conversation in regards to, I don't know. Running. Steve, how are you doing tonight, sir?
Doing pretty good. I just got back from my group run.
Okay.
And I'm training for the Boston Marathon on April 20th.
Gotcha. So let's start at the beginning though, where the running kicks in, right? So, are you from Portland?
No, I'm from Seattle area, but I've lived here for probably 30 years now.
Okay.
But I really didn't start running till very late in life. I'm 64, and I didn't start running till I was 54, so about 10 years ago.
Really?
Yeah, I ran a little bit, but just, in college, but not competitively or anything, just for fun. But it wasn't till about 10 years ago that I kind of fell in love with running after going to the Eugene Marathon for the first time.
So when you say a little bit, like you were running a little bit, how
much
was a little bit?
I was just with friends after school
Right.
or whatever. We'd go run down the road for a mile or so. It wasn't anything,
Right.
And we really didn't have any events or anything that we would attend.
Gotcha.
But I started in grade school and middle school. I was overweight. I really couldn't participate athletically very well at all. I was always the last one that they would pick for a team because I was so uncoordinated and just unable to move.
Right.
I remember in grade school, the coach would have us run around the backstop, and I was always the last one. I could barely do it. And then they came up with, this was in the late 60s, they had this thing called the President's Award for Athletics for high school, or junior high, or it was grade school at the time. And they had all these different activities that you would do. And one of the activities was this 600-yard run walk, and I could barely do it. I was always the last one.
Interesting.
So I really didn't do any sports. I didn't really participate in any athletic activities after school, or
nothing.
I wasn't in track. I didn't do anything.
So then I guess the first immediate question would be then, what changed?
Well, about 10 years ago, I had a neighbor down the street that had run in the Eugene Marathon, and there's actually two races. There's a marathon and a half marathon, and he had run quite a bit, and it sounded kind of interesting and maybe fun. And so I started talking to my wife at the time, and we thought, maybe we should try this. And I was worried. I was scared to death. I didn't think I could finish it.
Right.
I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean,
so did you go a half
marathon, 13.1. So I started running a little bit at night. I would go around the neighborhood and start preparing. And I remember even looking at the course map and figuring out, okay, is there a shuttle from the aid station number 2 back to the start so I could get back? I was very intimidated at when I showed up down there. I thought it's going to be like it was back in school, where you got all these runners, and they're all be the tail end of the very end of the runners, trying to stay up with everybody else. And I went down there and ran it, and it was a totally different experience. It changed me.
So talk a little bit about that training then. So what did you start? Did you start doing, I guess you started by doing a half mile?
Yeah, I just started running.
Just start running?
Yeah, half mile, right? And then I'd wait a while, another couple days I'd try to go a little further, and then a little further, and I just kept working. And because the date, when you sign up with these things, the date's already established, so you know how many days you have to get ready. And it was quite an event. I had no idea that it would be like it was for me.
Yeah.
The things that were so surprising were how much everybody was for you. I mean, they wanted you to do well. They were celebrating the fact that you were there.
Right.
And the fact that you were working hard.
Right.
And there was nothing that was more amazing than stepping on that finish line.
Right.
You
Getting across
you
that
got
goal.
it. Yeah. Yeah. It was really quite an event, and it changed me. It really changed who I was and what I did.
Right.
I started to do more. I started looking for more races.
Right.
And I thought this was great. Let's run another one. So then I signed up for another half marathon and started running half marathons. I think that year I ended up running 3 or 4.
Really?
Yeah. So I was addicted. At that moment, I think that was the time that it really changed me. And it felt really good. I mean, I couldn't believe how much better I felt. I wasn't as lethargic, you know.
Right.
I didn't realize I was lethargic.
Yeah.
But I was so, you know, just moving around, going upstairs and things. All of a sudden, it just became incredibly easy.
Right.
And just everything in life just seemed to be better. You know, it was,
right. Now you're getting healthier, right?
Yeah, yeah. And it just was so refreshing. So, and I liked the environment. I like runners.
Right.
I mean, they're real spirited people.
Yeah.
They kind of have this zest about life, you know, and about things. It's just a real healthy, feel good environment. And
so you're running this half marathon in Eugene, right? The first time.
First time, yeah.
Was it, you know, because you'd been training. So how long did you have roughly to train for that?
Oh, it was only, I don't know, 3 or 4 months.
3 or 4 months.
Yeah, I think that's what it was before we, you know.
So before the day, what, maybe at that point, before the actual day of running the marathon, like how many miles do you think you had done in one time at that point?
I know I didn't get up to the 13.1.
Yeah.
I think the most I'd run before then was maybe 10, and it was a struggle.
Gotcha.
It was a struggle.
So you know, there's no doubt that there's a challenge.
Oh yeah, that's the fun of it. That's what it is. It's pushing you to do something that you didn't think you could do.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
How was it the night before? Do you recall?
Yeah.
Or did you just fall asleep?
Yeah.
No big deal.
Yeah, I was nervous.
Nervous.
Definitely nervous.
Thinking about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So wait. So had you, just for clarity, because your neighbor was running, had you have gone to, you had went to an event that they had ran in, or they were just...
he just was talking about it and sharing it with me.
You'd never experienced the event.
No, I've never been to a race, never.
Nothing.
Nothing.
So you were like, all right, I could possibly do this.
Yeah.
Let's give it a shot. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, so you show up race day, you put in the miles. I'm sure you.
I was nervous.
Was there some hills on there that you?
There's a pretty good. Well, at the time it seemed pretty good at mile 8, but you know, I made it past the hill, and it was amazing to me how many fellow runners were in the same condition that I was. Of course, you know, when you run in a group like that, you fall to the pace of where other runners are around you, and it's kind of like this hill is coming, and it's kind of you feel this camaraderie with fellow runners. It's not competitive.
Right.
You're competing against yourself, not really the other runners, and it's like, come on, we're going to get this hill together. We're going to get through this together.
Yeah.
You know, and it was that type of feelings and environment that you get.
Yeah, it's definitely it's a very unique sport, right? Because it's like, you might have a team, like especially when you do these long distance runs, right? There might be a team, but at the end of the day, like, you, the individual runner, you have to do it.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're gonna do it,
It's up to you. Yeah, it's entirely up to you.
Yeah. So in a weird way, but the camaraderie is huge, and I've found it. You know, I found it just from doing like the running groups, and then I have the Shamrock Run coming up. Hoping that it depends on if it stays going, right?
Right now, hopefully we'll get to run it. I'm running it as well.
Yeah. So far it hasn't been canceled. So I have that coming up, and that's kind of what started our journey. Was we, just talking, and it was actually the camaraderie that I was at a networking event, and I ran into a Portland running company group. At the pub, and I could tell right away there was camaraderie amongst everybody.
Oh, yes.
It was like there was this high energy. You could tell that everybody was. There was some, talking crap back and forth, but it was. You could feel that there was an energy there. There was kind of a love, an appreciation for everybody, and the hardships that. That we'd struggled through mile after mile, right?
Right. It's kind of like we've all been through this thing that you've gone through. You've all struggled together.
Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
and
really
they
cool.
share in your celebration too.
Yeah.
That's a lot of it as well.
Right. Once you accomplish the goal.
Yeah, and that's what I've learned in doing it for a long time. That the training is all the hard work, and the day of the race, that's just a celebration for all the hard work you've put in.
Ah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I've been watching the I think it's like called the running channel or something like that on YouTube. Just get like being a new runner, kind of tips, tricks, things of that nature. And she was kind of talking about that too, about how races are being canceled, so don't beat up on yourself too much, just kind of adapt, maybe look for a different race. And if you can't find a race, then we encourage you to still do the run because you've been prepping and planning for the run. Yeah. So maybe do the run and, maybe get some of your friends or family to involved so that way maybe they can provide support for you, if it's gels or whatever your thing is.
Whatever support you need.
Whatever support you need, do that. So... Or, and just do the mileage and maybe even videotape it, so that way that you've accomplished it and, go through it because it's still your victory. You're still...
Victory is a good word for
it. So, do you have any, words of encouragement for, young or not even young, right?
Well, I waited, as you know, till I was 54 before I started running. Right. I think a lot of that was probably because of the way it was when I was in grade school. I had a very disdain thinking about it, and so that I didn't really try it again until I was much later in life. Yeah. And if I had anything, I would say, I would try it earlier. Why wait till you're 54? This is great, Right. I'm surprised that, I didn't find it earlier.
Yeah.
I think it'd be really hilarious if I went back to the old days to realize, that I'll pay $85 or $100 to run a marathon.
Right.
And to, me being younger, thinking that I would pay to run, and it's a lot more than the 600-yard run walk. Right. It's 26 miles. I would pay to do that.
Right, to your younger
and
self.
Now I happily pay to run a marathon.
It's really cool though.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
So there's and so you have coming up. You have you're doing the Shamrock Run, which is this weekend, right?
Shamrock, yeah.
And that's a half.
Yeah, I'm running the
half marathon, and then the big one you have coming up though that you've qualified for is the Boston, right?
Yeah, Boston is the big one. Hopefully they'll still hold it. I don't know.
Right.
If they don't, this will be the first in 124 years that it hasn't been held.
Right.
Boston is really quite a marathon. It's the marathoner's marathon. It's the, as you know, it's the big one that that
kind of set everything off.
there's nothing, and there's a lot of reasons for that. A lot of really good reasons.
Great history there.
Yeah, a lot of history. It's the first and longest running marathon in the U.S.
Right.
And it's just the way you're treated when you go back there. It's a lot of things, but the people of Boston really embrace that marathon, and it's their marathon, and it's really special, and they make you feel special.
Right.
They are as excited as you are to be there.
Right.
And it is just the thrill of your life if you ever get to run Boston.
Right.
There are just so many things that they do that make it special. You know, the race symbolizes the run of Paul Revere.
Okay.
and freedom. And it doesn't go through Lexington, but it does go from the outside of Boston, and that's what it symbolizes. And it always takes place on Patriots' Day. So that's why it's an expression of American freedom. And they take it very seriously. And that was why the bombing was such a big thing.
Right.
Was it was right in the face of their event.
Right.
And so they really took it personally, as they should have.
Right. Came back and said, well, we're not going to stop.
Yeah.
You're not going to take our liberty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man, there's so much there, right? Like, I don't remember the lady's name. I recently watched the documentary on it.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Yeah,
It's a good documentary.
Yeah, it's an amazing.
Catherine Switzer, perhaps you're thinking of?
The first lady.
Well, there were two ladies.
I'm talking the lady that jumped in.
That was there were two.
Right.
One was Bobby Gibb. Bobby Gibb was actually the first woman to run Boston, although a lot of people think it's Catherine Switzer. Catherine Switzer was the first woman to run Boston with a bib.
Correct.
As a registered runner. But Bobby Gibb had actually run Boston before Catherine.
Right.
And she hid in the bushes.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, and she jumped out and started and ran with the guys, and she was really worried that they wouldn't accept her, but they did. They thought it was great.
Yeah, and like in the documentary they were talking about how like the women weren't allowed because they were concerned that their insides were going to fall out.
There was a lot of.
I was like, what? Crazy,
they didn't think
crazy
they were
men.
capable of running distance.
Right. That's interesting. Man, we've evolved. We've came a long ways, and it symbolizes that run. I mean, even if we go back to the history of marathon itself, right? Like the individual that ran and died from running the 26 miles, right?
It was actually less, they say. There's reasons that it's 26.2, a marathon, and that's because I believe it was the Queen of England wanted to have the finish line right where she could see it in front of her stand, so they actually lengthened it. So it's a little longer than the run from Marathon to Athens. Yeah. I think that's like 24 or something. I don't really know the distance, but they lengthened when they moved it to England. They lengthened it so they could have the finish line right where she could see. So that became the 26.2.
26.2.
And that's been the standard ever since.
That's an epic story, right? I mean, just that like somebody. I guess I imagine though that like the nutrition and everything back when this individual ran it and lost his life to running 24 miles, is I imagine a lot of different things going on in the realm of health, but still that he was from nothing to that, right? To run.
Yeah, who knows how much training he did? Probably none.
Right. Right.
He didn't have aid stations like we do.
Yeah, and it shows too, So when I was like in the service, I was doing like probably every other day I would do, 5 to 6 miles. Mm-hmm. Like that was just like the regiment, that's what I would do. I would have like my workout day where I did like my HIIT training, did all my body, and then next day I would run. Do the body thing. That was my routine.
Yeah.
And one day, I went off to like one of the academies, one of the schools for becoming a military police officer. And as I'm there, I was trying to keep up with my routine, and keep in mind we're doing PT. So if they're running, then I was adapting and evolving. But some of the guys that were there said, "Hey, we should go run at the end of the day. Let's go run." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll do a run. I feel good. I feel like I'm capable of it." And we ended up doing like 13 miles, and we just kind of zoned out. And this was trail running. It was road running to trail. And we ran into the night.
Yeah.
And it was almost like we didn't even realize it. It was just we just zoned out, started chatting.
I know. Yeah. I've
been
there.
And you just next
That's
thing you
a runner's high.
Yeah, and next thing you know, it's like we hit the point, and it was like we've done 13 miles, so now we can do 13 here and turn back, or we can do another 4, which is going up the hill, up this big hill too, and then coming back down. And at the time, I was like, I think I'm good. I think we're just gonna call it. It's been a long time. It's getting late. Like I want to hit the shower, do the rack out type of thing. Now I'm like, man, I wonder if I should have done it. And that's one of those moments you look back and you're like, maybe I wonder if I could have done it.
I bet you could.
I probably could have, because we just zoned out. We just
it's never too late. You can start.
Right. Yeah. Start training it.
You could go back there and try it.
Yeah. Go back and conquer it after all these years. Yeah. Well, take it down. Victory is mine. And it was too. It was like it just zoned out.
Yeah.
Next thing you know, 13 miles in, and it wasn't even like it was nothing. It didn't even, and I didn't feel it either, like on my body.
Yeah, if you're in shape, it doesn't hurt. I mean, you don't even notice. It feels kind of good. It feels really good.
See, and I'm noticing that now because we trained about probably 5-6 weeks now, maybe a little longer than that. We're probably like at 7 weeks now, where we've been training. Every Monday, Thursday, Thursday, and then on Saturday we put in a run. And I remember, the route that we run. I remember coming, and just getting to the hill, and I was like, "Oh crap, man! What did we sign up for?" Right away. And we hit the hill, and I would be like, "Oh man!" And then we'd go up the hill, and then we'd get up, and then they were like, "Oh, we should probably just turn around," And so we got up there, and then we'd turn around. And so then I'd get middle of the hill. And I was running with Kate, and she's like, "You just gotta look down and just keep moving." And you could tell that she knew. You could feel when somebody's kind of struggling, right? You kind of get that feel. But the camaraderie again.
She helps you out, yeah.
Yeah,
Kate's a good runner.
Yeah, she totally was supportive, and she's like, "You just, you look down and you do that, and you just kind of zone out." And sure enough, that's what happened, and we got it. And then it was here, like a week and a half ago, I was able to sprint up that hill.
Yeah. Your body adapts. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And that was probably the most amazing thing with me was I couldn't believe it. I mean, when you said that if you ever had told me 10 years ago that you're going to go run the marathon, and not only are you going to run, but you're going to run fast enough to qualify for Boston, I'd tell you, you're crazy, man. There's no way. Me? No.
Right. So here's the kicker, though, right? That we haven't even talked about. You went through like a major injury too, right?
Yeah, we can get into that if you'd like.
Yeah. I mean, you had like a.
Yeah, so I was running. I'll fast forward to that. So I ran a bunch of halves, and then I decided that these fulls I thought is crazy, but I'll try a full and just kind of see how it goes.
Right.
So I tried the Portland Marathon.
Okay.
Because I'd gotten a lot of advice from other runners. If you're going to do your first full, where do you go? And they said Portland. Portland's got the race that, it's close to home, it's well supported. You'll get a lot of support off the crowd, and it's in the fall. It'll be cooler. It'll be good. There were a lot of reasons to try Portland as my first, and I was shaken at the finish line. I mean, I was really nervous about this. Right. We're going to move from a half to a full. Can I really do this? And again, it was just the most amazing experience. And I finished it, and I came, I just kind of one day I looked to see, well, I wonder what the qualifying times for Boston are, for my age, because it goes depending on your age and your gender.
Gotcha.
And so I looked it up, and okay, that's way out there. But I ran my first marathon, and I came, I think, within 3 or 4 minutes of qualifying for Boston on my first try.
Yeah.
Which is amazing. I know quite a few people that had tried for, many years, 10, 20 years even, and they'd never made it. As you get older, it gets a little easier, I think,
right.
Because the Boston Athletic Association, they favor the times that you have to do to qualify to get into Boston get easier as you get older.
Right.
So anyway, I had run Portland, and then I started working on my marathon and just kept working at it. It took me probably another 2 years and probably 4 or 5 more marathons before I finally made the qualifying time.
Right.
And so then I got to go to Boston, which was the most amazing experience I ever had.
Right.
In running. It's everything they say it is.
Yeah.
So I had run Boston twice, and I was getting, is this the second or the third Boston. I loved it so much I just had to go back.
Right.
So I qualified again, and it was the third running where I was starting to notice a little pain in my left hip.
Right.
And so then I went into my, I kept training it, I kept icing it, I did all the things runners do, you roll it, you try to lay off for a while. I tried everything, and it just wasn't going away. So I finally went in to see my GP, my general physician, and he x-rayed it right there on the spot, and he said, oh, you've got arthritis. And the lining in your joints, really compromised. In fact, a lot of it's gone. And he said, "Oh, you're in line for a hip replacement. Oh, and by the way, you really shouldn't run once you have a hip replacement."
Right.
That was probably the worst day of my life.
Right.
It was bad. I mean, I remember leaving his office and thinking I'd never run again.
Right.
It was terrible. I remember I was depressed. It really hit me hard.
Right.
Because I'd found this thing
finally
in my life, that got me out.
Made sense.
Yeah, it was really bad. So I thought about it for a while, and then talked to several surgeons and things, and then I started going on the internet, and I started Googling, as anyone would do,
Right.
runners with hip replacements, runners with,
Right.
And I found, oh no, that's not true. There's people that have hip replacements that run.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that's but there were issues. They'd run, but not marathons. They'd run maybe 5K or 10K or something, and they wouldn't run the crazy miles that I was running. So then I started to research it more and more, and I found a type of joint, a device that's implanted,
right,
that was called resurfacing instead of total hip replacement. And
right,
the difference is that they shave the top of the femur, the ball on top of your femur. They shave it off, and then they put a cap on it, like a dentist would with a tooth.
Oh, okay.
Because traditional hip replacements, they whack off the femur, and then they drive this post down the middle of the femur.
Gotcha.
And then you have a ball. But this resurfacing technique was quite different. And
Right.
it had gotten kind of a bad rap because a company put out a bad product that wore out very quickly.
Right.
And so there wasn't a lot of people doing it. It was kind of frowned upon. But I found, the more I researched into it, I found that there was actually high success rates with this particular device out of England called a Birmingham.
Right.
And it had been around for a while, and from everything that I studied on it is if it was put in correctly, it would outlast the total hip replacements. they tended to do this operation more on younger athletes where they wanted to conserve bone.
Right.
Because once you whack off the femur, then revisions, they call it revisions when they got to redo the joint.
Right.
And become much more difficult. So usually it was done on athletes, and it was done more on younger people. And I researched it even more, and I found that one of the top surgeons that in the world actually was right here in the Northwest in Seattle. And so I decided, well, I got to talk to this guy.
Yeah, I got to know.
So I went up there, and I remember sitting in his office, and you know, usually with these orthopedic surgeons, you got to be pretty careful about the R word.
Right.
So I dropped the R word on him, and he didn't even flinch.
Yeah.
So I went deeper. I went to the M word,
Right.
marathon.
Yeah.
And he says, I don't see that is going to be an issue. And I couldn't believe it. So then I went deeper.
Right.
I told him I was a double M, and he says, what's that? Oh, that's a marathon maniac.
Yeah.
And it's a club that where if you run 3 marathons in 28 days, you're allowed in. And yeah, they send you a card that you're certifiably insane.
Right. I like it.
And they have a section in the internet that once you're a member, you can go in and you can be truthful about how much you really do run,
Right.
and nobody judges or criticizes you.
Right.
So you go into the insane asylum and you find all these guys running crazy races. You know,
Right.
they'll run, you know,
Yeah.
they'll run 100 marathons in a year, even some of them.
Oh man.
It's just, I mean, they're just crazy runners. Anyway, they're
Yeah.
called maniacs. And
Okay.
you might see them at the Shamrock. They wear yellow shirts.
Right.
It's
Right.
MM.
That's awesome.
So I'm a maniac. I'm a member of the Maniac Club.
The marathon
Maniacs,
maniacs.
yes.
That's awesome. So he was.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
he said,
yeah.
he said, you know, you're a little older than most of my patients, but, you know, you're active, so I'll do it. You know, I'll do it.
Yeah.
I don't anticipate a problem. And, you know, so it was, and he was pretty good. I mean, he was, the more I looked into him, he was like a top surgeon. You know,
Yeah.
I was really lucky to get into him. But, so I still had, and I ran every day up until the day of surgery, I think, which was a good thing to do to stay
Right.
fit
Keep
and
it
stay
strong.
Yeah, and I remember asking him, well, I still got Boston. I want to run Boston, and because I've qualified and I want to run it. He says, yeah, go ahead. He says, I'm going to replace it anyway. So anyway, I remember running Boston, thinking, you know, this could be my last run, my last marathon, and I'm at mile 24, and it's hurting so bad, I'm crying.
Yeah.
And when I got to the finish line, they were, you know, the medical people, they were there waiting for me. They saw how bad it was.
Yeah.
They you know, but I said, no, it's okay. I know, you know,
Right.
I'm going to have it replaced, you know, not to worry, but.
they just probably get used to it too.
Yeah.
Crazy runners. They're like,
Yeah.
guys, maniacs. We get it.
Yeah.
It'll be okay. Yeah.
So anyway, yes. So I had the surgery,
Yeah.
and this was 2 years ago.
Okay.
So, and I started back at training, and it was very painful. I remember the first I started walking right away. They get you up right away after hip surgery, and they
Yeah.
get you walking around. And I was walking back at the Monday night running a
Gotcha.
week after surgery. I was there
Walking.
at the group run, and I would walk the run.
Nice.
And then-
Dedication.
Yeah, and then I would get where I could run a mile or two with the guys, and then I
Yeah.
had to walk, and then it got 3 or 4 miles, and then
Yeah.
you know, another year went by, and I got faster and I got better,
Right.
and then I started running marathons again, and I tried the tunnel marathon up in Seattle, which is down Snoqualmie Pass. I ran that. And didn't qualify for Boston, but I finished,
Right.
and that gave me the confidence that I can do this. I can get back.
Right.
Because I knew if I could get back to qualifying for Boston, that I would have made a full recovery and I could run as much as I wanted.
You're a madman.
Yeah, I know.
You're a madman. A true inspiration, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, I ran 3 more marathons and kept eking at the time, and we got closer and closer, and I knew I could hit it. And then finally, last spring at the Newport Marathon, I did qualify.
Right.
So I went from probably the worst day of my life to the best day of my life.
Right.
When I had that qualification.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
it's a huge accomplishment.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think there's a lot of little ones in there too that like.
Oh yeah, I ran.
I mean, even this say here that you were walking on Monday nights.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm here to tell you folks, like, he's leading the pack now. Like, he's taking the charge.
I'm not that fast. There's guys there.
He's pretty quick.
Jerry's faster than me.
I struggle. I struggle. Like,
and there's guys that run more than I do, believe it or not.
Right. I mean, of course they're out there, but I mean, to the everyday people, I mean, you're a true inspiration. I mean, I think as I ran with you one night. By default, I think there wasn't really the amount of runners that night. There wasn't that many of them, so there wasn't really a choice. I was either with the group that was going a mile, or I was with the group that was going 5 at a quick click, right? And so I ended up with you guys.
Yeah, you went the 5 mile with us.
Yep, and it was
5.6 or something we did.
It was a challenge. I had done that. I want to say I had done that path one other time where I had like trailed way back, but then now I was running with the guys that were leading that charge to go that route, and that was probably still to this day, that was probably the roughest night for me, because remember I had said I was talking about walking up the hill, right?
Yeah.
And then finally it was to the point where I could actually sprint up the hill. But that night it was like I didn't get to sprint up to the top of the hill and walk. It was like you guys just kept going. So then I would try to stop, and I was like, nope, I gotta keep moving. Yep. So I would take like one little stop, and then I was like, oh, okay, keep going, because it's like I'm holding them back, and I could feel that, and it was like driving me as well and pushing me to keep moving.
Good.
And I think, where was it, about 4 mile in, I asked you the question of, like what's in your mind? Like what do you tell yourself?
How do you keep going, I think is what you asked me.
Yeah. That's what it was.
Yeah, so.
And if I recall, it was that you realized that at some point you are separating yourself from the everyday path, right?
Yeah, you separate. Yeah, if you work hard when the going gets rough, that's when you.
Right.
It's hard for everybody, I think is what I said.
Yeah, it's hard for everybody.
The difference is, what are you going to do about it?
Correct. And you can take that lesson across life.
Mm-hmm.
That's a true lesson, that can be implemented into any endeavor. If you're willing to do the work and put in the time and work hard and stay dedicated to it, like you can accomplish greatness.
Yeah, I never, like I said, I never would believe that I would ever be capable of running a marathon.
Right.
And now I've run Boston 3 times, soon to be 4th.
Right.
Coming up, but it's
huge.
Yeah, so and the limitation was me,
right,
thinking that I couldn't do it.
It was all in your head, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for the sake of time, we've adapted. We got to this point. We're coming towards the end of the show. What I like to do for our guests is I like to give you the floor, a couple minutes to just talk to the world,
Sure.
because that's where this goes. So, sir, the floor is yours. What would you like to say to the world?
Well, first of all, let's go back to the story. We don't have the closing yet.
Oh, yeah.
And that will be that if I get to run on April 20th.
Mm-hmm.
The question is if, because of the coronavirus. Hopefully they'll hold
Right.
the marathon. But it'll probably be the most memorable, meaningful run of my life.
Yeah.
Because
I can imagine.
it symbolizes, the recovery and getting back to something that I loved so much and is a big part of me. But also, there were a lot of people on a Facebook group that I belong to. It's a private group of Birmingham hip replacements.
Okay.
So there's a lot of people having hip replacements that are just like mine that are watching me very closely.
Right.
So they're going to be with me on that journey to run Boston.
Yeah.
And then the plan is to take the medal, the finisher's medal,
Mm-hmm.
and then I'm going to frame it and put it on a plaque. And then I go in for my checkup to my surgeon. So he's going to get that medal to hang on his wall.
Yeah.
Because he was the real hero in the story.
Yeah.
But anyway, as far as what to say is, I don't know. I think, just follow your passion, and it's. I am just so thankful, that I can still run.
Right.
I have the ability to run, and I cherish that more than anything else.
Right.
It isn't until you lose something that you realize how lucky you are to have it.
Yeah.
So here I am at 64-year-old and can still run, still run, and I can run marathons, and I enjoy it, and that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah. I think you said it, sir.
Okay.
I think it was there. Follow your passion, and appreciate what you got. You know, and keep moving, right?
Yep. I'm the luckiest guy on the earth right now, or it feels that way.
Hey, we're rooting for you.
Thanks.
I look forward to watching as it unfolds and everything, and man, I'm stoked for you.
I'll send you my bib number. You can track my progress on the race.
Oh yeah,
race.
so we can see it.
Yeah. You can log in and you can see where I am and how I'm doing.
Yeah. How are they out there? I mean, can I come out and document it?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I believe they had 500,000 spectators last time I ran. So yeah, there's a lot of people there.
Right. I think they're giving us the you see them.
Okay,
people.
We're done.
They're giving us the sign, people. Okay. So first off, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Sure.
It's been an honor to chat with you, and it's been a great story, and I look forward to seeing it as it unfolds. And thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks I love sharing it. So
yeah.
It's good.
And to you, lovely world, I want to thank you for tuning in to We the People, an American pod show. And as always, keep rocking the free world.